Imagine being intellectually outpaced. Couldn't be me. I haven't done one of these segments in a little while. I haven't been watching Destiny that much. I've been watching some of his debates, but I just haven't been able to tune in. I've been watching too many people that much, okay? I am my own content creator now. Listen, the data says that most of you guys who are watching right now are not subbed. Hit that sub button. What are you doing? It's completely free. Stay up to date with a frenzy. But Pepe La V and Pepe La D were in a call together. Destiny crashed a call that Vouch was in. They were talking about police, social workers, and all the 9 yards. Vosh was kind of on the defense here, defending sending social workers instead of police officers to mental health crises and wellness checks. Wellness checks specifically, but I'm going to extend it to mental health crises and mental health checkups in general, because I think that's what we're talking about, and not just specifically wellness checks, just anything mental health related, and maybe even some other medical situations, not sending police and instead sending social workers. And in this context, it'd be only social workers and not social workers along with police, or social workers like being the little sidekick to police as they go on their police duties or whatever, right? They won't be like their fucking Pokemon that they throw out when they don't want to deal with some like autistic kid, you know? And that brings us right here, and we can talk about it a little bit. I want to listen to what they had to say, and then we can talk about it. How does that sound?
Yeah, but we can come up with different combinations and different practical applications in all types of settings, which I think would be important. But there's lots of practical applications where we don't need to send police at all. That's the important thing.
If we want
there's some jobs that police don't need to go to.
I'm having a hard time understanding what these like mental health crises are that are so essential. You need to call a third party that you wouldn't want a police officer there for liability reasons. Like, I'm just curious. Is there like an example?
Are you asking because you don't know? Have you ever had a welfare check on you?
I don't know if this is supposed to make the argument stronger. What I'm asking is if you've escalated something to the point where you have to make a phone call, you're saying, hello, there is a situation that is so out of control where I'm at right now, I need to bring in another person to deal with it. It's fine, I don't need a cop. I'm just curious, what are those types of situations? That's what I'm asking.
Welfare checks oftentimes are done literally just because you're concerned about a person. I know that, and I could dig this up, and I don't know if there's specific data on this, but the idea that every welfare check is being done because an American has waited for the last resort and only now are they willing. A lot of people panic call 911 because that's the only option we have when it comes to asking the state for any kind of interference. Unless you have a friend in the neighborhood of whatever friend you're concerned about, the state has nothing else for you. There's nothing else you can send. There's no other number you can call. It's the cops. So in many cases, we don't even have a normalization of the channels that people could go through to indicate they want someone other than a cop. But I'll say this, I have called welfare checks on somebody because I was worried about them, and I did have to call the cops, but I wouldn't have if there had been an alternative. She was fine. The cops didn't do anything bad.
So if we're making a welfare check on somebody, we're implicitly or explicitly saying there's a chance that you're going to go to a house, and the house you're going to has a dead person inside. You might even need to break into it.
Extraordinarily small fraction of the total range of, again, this would be like every time.
No, okay, you keep trying to say like, wait, hold on.
I'm sorry, do you have numbers on how often that is the case?
Okay, it's not about how often, it's about the possibility
of it being the case. There's always a possibility that any state action, anytime you send anyone to fulfill any role at any house, something horrible could happen. Now, if you would ask the majority of people calling for a welfare check, do you want a cop or a social worker sent to the house of that person? I would be willing to bet a majority would ask for a social worker, not all. But I do think that's a decision they should at least be able to make.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know if that's even a situation, because there would have to be further explanation given there. When you're making a call for a welfare check, what you're telling the operator on the other end is there is a chance that you're going to a residence that you might need to break into, and there's a chance that there might be a crime scene because there might be a body. That is the entire point of a welfare check. A welfare check means that there is somebody that you are concerned about in a house, and you cannot get a hold of them in any way. So they're not responding to any sort of phone call, cell phone, whatever, and you don't have another friend that you can go check up on them. So when you call an operator, you're saying they could be dead, there might be a crime scene, you might need to break in to check on that person. That's the point of a welfare check.
Right, so when we generally have welfare checks, do you think that it's an initial first move or a good idea to just send some cops there willing to barge down and break down the door? Do you think that that's like the best outcome, when most often we don't need these cops to come out here and, you know, handle these situations, when we could have a social worker go knock, check on the door, make sure the person's alive, and then leave? Especially when cops are more threatening, they are more intimidating, and it definitely is going to make someone having a mental health crisis more on edge and feel more antagonized or feel more problematic.
So like that's a potential thing. But so here's the question then, right? Since cops are hooked up to EMTs and can get all these people on the line very quick, they usually have training when breaking entry. Let's say that you think there might be somebody that's suicidal. You do a welfare check, okay? But you don't think they're like a threat to anybody. You're just like a little bit worried. Let's say that a social worker shows up to the house. They knock 3 times. They don't get an answer. At this point, there's two paths. One, are these social workers also trained to like break and enter doors or whatever? Are they ready to assume that liability? If yes, then they can, okay? If no, then now they have to call the police to do a break and entry. Let's say that in the time you call the social worker and they're there, the person's like on the floor, like choking on their own fucking tongue because they were trying to OD on some some drug or whatever. I guess like are you worried about the fact that now you're just causing more and more time between like a breaking and entering, which you would need to do to check in on some people that might be in the process of killing themselves? Like, is there some number of like, well, it'll happen to 1% of cases?
I'm pretty sure social workers
no,
could be trained for the First of all, we're talking again about fringe cases. Second of all, I'm pretty sure you could train social workers in that way and give them legal permission in welfare checks to engage in.
I want to get in here. Okay, I need to get involved with this. I have a fucking question.
I'd like to finish my response if that's okay.
Okay,
The
fine.
biggest rebuttal to this is that the first people you send for a welfare check aren't the cops, it's your friends and family if they're nearby. But if they have friends and family in the area, those are always the first people that you call when you want to check up on somebody's well-being. Clearly, in practice, welfare checks aren't like, who are you sending to collect the body?
I think we basically got the gist of it. The last thing that they talked about basically would be whether or not police are more threatening or scary to people with like mental health crises than social workers are.
Fuck Christ, okay? So for all of you that none of you have experience with people that have mental health crises, I understand that. That's fine.
Are you talking about
totally
me?
Normal, okay? Yes, all of you. Yes, okay? So people that have had mental health crises, people that I can tell by the way that you talk. So people that have had serious mental health crises,
that cops and social workers would be considered differently by people in crisis.
No, that you have no idea how
let's let each other
absolutely
finish.
frightened somebody can be of a social worker that's representing the state when it comes to a mental health
I'm only
crisis.
saying they would probably be less so them than by a cop. That's my only
but you
position.
don't
You
know
keep
that
jumping to
because-
my argument being, I
Okay,
think social workers would
let's
elicit
keep
no
talking,
fear.
just keep
I've never said
talking,
that.
okay?
So, okay. It continues on like that for a little bit and then Stardust cuts the segment. Wait, what is this? What have you sent me? Oh my gosh. Daily life of a social worker. Holy shit, man. Holy fuck. God damn. Oh my, I can't even imagine this being my job. Holy shit, dude. Oh my gosh. Going places where nobody else can go. So terrifying. It is horribly scary. I can't believe she doesn't have a gun on her. So I think we got basically the gist of it, okay? Destiny made a couple of points in there. I'd like to respond to them because I think this is worth talking about because we all kind of assumed that, oh dude, like obviously everyone's for like sending social workers in these positions. But there are people who disagree. So if that's the case, I'd love to talk about this a little bit because it seems like there's some people obviously out there that disagree. And I think it's always great to be able to back up your points with real information. Vosh didn't have the information in front of him. I do. So let's talk about it a little bit. Destiny brought up, what call would you need where a social worker would show up, but not a cop? Well, I think that there are lots of cases where people show up and they don't call the cops because the person is like going crazy, spinning around like the Tasmanian devil and like fucking destroying shit, or like they're like held up like Waco or something and you need to like bust them out. I don't think that's the majority of cases where that happens. You could be having a massive mental health crisis, or people around you just don't know how to deal with someone having a mental health crisis or like a meltdown or a problem or an episode. So you call someone, you want to call someone, right? Like lots of people like that because the police or like a social worker, they have like a responsibility when they come to deal with the issue. They didn't have like your average person just around someone having a mental health crisis. They don't have the responsibility to take care of that person, nor do they probably have the training to do so. That on top of the fact that you could just be scared to intervene yourself. You don't know necessarily what to do. And people want someone there who's trained, who knows what to do, who has the responsibility there to do it. So lots of people call for a wellness check, a healthcare check, to call like a social worker or a cop to go show up for a non-threatening, non-violent situation, and not just one where you need to like war, like breaching clear, throwing the flashbang, and then like combat roll and bonk the person over the head who's having like a mental health crisis and put them in a straitjacket. You know, typically that doesn't happen. People even call the police on even some kids who are having like an autistic sort of meltdown, right? And that actually happened once, and that kid ran from the cops and got shot in the back. He was 13. I'm pretty sure he lived, but he had a lot of issues. As you can imagine, getting a bunch of holes pumped into your spine isn't going to leave you in the best position, you know? It's not like an offhand example, actually. Police departments say that 10% of their contact with the public involves a person with mental illness. So 10% of their contact with the public is mental illness, or mental illness related issues. But people with untreated mental health symptoms are 25% of police shootings. 25%. 1 in 4 people that are shot by police in this country. And remember, at least in America, around 2,000 people get shot and killed by police every single year. A fourth of those, around 500 people, a year are killed by police or in the middle of a mental health crisis. We can talk about like how good it is to put like so how good it is to have like cops around, but when these are the stats that we're looking at, it is really important to try and fix it. And even if there are some problems with how we're fixing it, this is not sustainable. And we see this not only in America, in Canada, in the UK as well. Those are the places that I checked specifically. This is what police do. And it's not just like in mental health crises, homelessness as well, but also like mental health crises can also be a part of like homelessness as well, drug issues. In California alone, 30% of calls are just about homeless people. They're just calling 30% of police calls are just on like your random homeless person squatting in the street. Incredible stuff, right? And traffic issues. We all know the issue with like traffic issues and police, right? We already know this. Here is the thing. People understand that cops don't have the best track record when it comes to people with mental illness. As we can see there, 1/4 of their shootings are people who are in a mental health crisis, even though 10% of the people that they meet are people having a mental health crisis. So there's obviously a massive problem here, but it's not just us like socialist lefties who want the utopian society or whatever who see this as a problem. The general society does too. And while I don't have data specifically comparing how police are seen to people in mental health crises compared to how social workers are seen in mental health crises by the person having a mental health crisis, I do have some other information about how people feel about police going to these situations in the first place. Do you support or oppose federal agents to support programs that send responders with proper training and expertise instead? All right, so this isn't in conjunction with, this is a one, either or, instead of armed police officers for calls of mental health issues, some substance abuse issues, check-ins for health and safety, and people experiencing homelessness. And if we take a look at this, the top line is 36% of people strongly support, and another 34% of people somewhat support. Around 75% of Americans support this. That's great. I think it's incredible. So people typically don't want this is pretty overwhelming, all right, in the United States. Even when it comes to Republicans, over 50% want first responders to not be armed cops when it comes to mental health and homeless crises. So it's hard to get that sort of consensus in this country, but we got it on this issue. Another thing as well is that so while I don't have specifically comparing social workers with cops, I do know how people feel around cops. Results. So this was a study. The purpose of this paper is to understand whether mental health status, either alone or in conjunction with race, affects participants' police legitimacy. And they found that results show that individuals with a history of mental illness are similar to African American respondents. Both are especially distrustful of the police. In combination of race and mental illness does not appear to create additional levels of distrust. So even though people are generally okay with the police are at a record low when it comes to public trust. Even though that's the case, people are still generally pretty okay with the police in general. But just because they're okay with police in general does not mean that they're okay with police in these mental health crises. If we go specifically to this issue, people don't want cops there. They don't. And it's a good thing that they don't, because cops don't help these situations. More often, a lot of times when they show up, they hurt people. I don't want to bring up too many anecdotes, but we went over an article that was written by someone who had like a mental health check on them in Canada, where like the police were banging on her door. They were telling her she needs to open up the door. She got like woken up out of bed. She like stumbled to the door. Was like, hello. And a cop just kind of like a couple of cops just kind of like, what are you doing here? Are you going to kill yourself? You know, it was just like probing her for questions. It was like really uncomfortable. They really didn't enjoy it. And it was actually even traumatizing for them to have the police like kind of show up and like fuck on them like that. Because at the end of the day, a normally dressed social worker and even like an EMT someone dressed like an EMT showing up and asking you if you're okay, I don't think it's too controversial to say that people are going to be more receptive to that than like a fucking bulletproof vest, 2 guns, pepper spray, billy club, fucking cop walking in and being like, you gonna kill yourself, bro? What the fuck's going on here? I think most people are going to be like, hey, I don't want this guy around. They'll be more open to the social worker than they would be the police. I think that's pretty, they assume they're there to help. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's true. That's another big thing. When people see police around, a lot of the times they're not like, oh yeah, this guy's here to help. They're like, why are the police here? You know, you ever thought like, have you ever like seen police around, like just hovering around, and you're like, oh, they're here to help. The first thing that goes to your mind is like, why are police here? And then you get nervous. People don't think that same way. People don't have those same ideas when it comes to social workers, typically. And even people, when it comes to like mental health issues, they don't have that same exact view of social workers. Will there be people who have issues with the social work system, see social workers as not great? Oh, absolutely. But I highly doubt that there are a lot of people who don't believe that a cop can like take you in and then like put you into like a mental health place. I'm pretty sure most people know that a cop can do that to you. I'm pretty sure most people are put there by police in the first place. But I'm not saying that our social worker system is perfect. We'll get to that. But it is better than gunning people down during mental health crises. So because of this, there are lots of cities that have turned away from the idea of having cops show up to these issues, right? And once again, I'm not even talking about sending police in conjunction, having social workers be their little like backup wingmen. I'm talking about sending social workers themselves, by themselves, to these calls, because I think that they can handle it. And actually, there are other cities around the country. This isn't some like lefty socialist pie in the sky dream. This is something that's being implemented not only in this country but in other countries around the world. And we're going to look at a couple of cities that do something along there, but we'll focus on one in particular, which is Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, actually. A group of activists in Eugene launched an unlikely alliance with local police 30 years ago to provide a new emergency response system. Now this, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call praxis. And it became a model for reformers around the country. The program sends two people, a medic and a crisis responder. Would you look at that? None of the people who go to these problems have a gun on them. Wild shit, isn't it? A medic and a crisis responder, someone who's trained in physical problems and someone who's trained in mental problems, go to these calls to help people instead of shoot them, instead of an armed cop. It's called CAHOOTS, which is cute. I like it. I like CAHOOTS. It reminds me of Kahoot. Or crisis assistance helping out on the streets, which is a pretty base name, I'm not gonna lie. In 2018, CAHOOTS executed 24,000 responses in Eugene and the neighborhood of Springfield with a free service to anyone in crisis. They roll up in a white van with medical supplies and blankets. You need help? The CAHOOTS got you, okay? Their combat roll out of their van and put a little blankie around you and give you a pat on the head, ask you if you're okay, give you some water. This I love it. I think it's cool. I love when programs have cute acronyms. I do too. We gotta call CAHOOTS the blankie. Yeah, they're there with the blankie. I think it's pretty sick. That's awesome. It is super awesome, and it gets better actually. The program now handles 20% of local 911 calls. 20% of calls are now handled by CAHOOTS. People without guns, with great training and a great reputation in the neighborhood and a great amount of public trust. If you need help, if you're having a physical problem or a mental problem, you're having a crisis that you need help with, they're going to help you. And they do an amazing job at it as well. And they cost $2.1 million, a tiny fraction of the $90 million that goes into the police. And the group estimates it saves $6 million in medical costs. And other cities are using this model as well. And in Denver, they launched their own CAHOOTS as well, where they have a healthcare paramedic and a social worker to minor 911 calls in a low-key van instead of an armored cop. Amazing. I want to talk about CAHOOTS a little bit, okay? Here, let's take a look at this video really quick.
Today, across CBS News, we've been taking an in-depth look at America's mental health crisis. We call our initiative Stop the Stigma. Nearly 4 million people in this country with severe mental illness go untreated. They are 16 times more likely to be killed during an encounter with police.
Now, we can talk about whether people feel good, feel better around cops or like social workers, but being 16 times more likely to be killed by police, I think probably isn't going to make you feel the best around cops. You know, that's just me. That's my little anecdote.
Omar Villafranca shows us how one city is trying to change that.
There's a guy on River Road who I think would benefit from having CAHOOTS come visit him.
When a mental health-related 911 call comes in,
we're allowed in.
A specialized team in Eugene, Oregon rolls out.
Pretty much everybody we see is, for one reason or another, in a state of crisis.
Manning Walker is a medic, and Laurel Lisovskis is a mental health crisis manager. The pair are members of CAHOOTS, crisis assistance helping out on the streets. They answer calls like suicide interventions and overdoses. They're unarmed and most of the time without police backup.
We always move as a team. Whoever's talking and making contact, the other person is observing.
They took our CBS crew on an exclusive ride-along. Their first call was for a woman they've met before. They believe she's schizophrenic. She told us her name was Kayla.
Would you rather deal with someone with CAHOOTS or like a uniformed police officer?
Definitely CAHOOTS. They don't, help you when you're in the time of need or when you're hungry or certain things like that.
CAHOOTS was founded in 1989. Last year, they responded to nearly 23,000 calls in Eugene and Springfield, Oregon. Denver is starting their own version of CAHOOTS. City leaders from Oakland, Olympia, Washington, and even New York City are all considering similar pilot programs.
That's amazing. It's like anti-cops actually helping. Yeah, wild stuff. Listen, I think it's super sick that they're able to do stuff like this, and they're doing an amazing job helping people on the streets in Oregon. CAHOOTS does sick work. Here, let me see if I can pull this up for you. They did an interview with someone who works with CAHOOTS a little bit. I want to read a little bit of this with you. Okay, so they start off there talking about, hey, this is CAHOOTS. So Ben, if I'm in Eugene and I call 911, when does that call get routed to your team instead of the police? The calls that come in to the police non-emergency number and or through the 911 system, if they have a strong behavioral health component, if the call does not seem to require law enforcement because they don't involve a legal issue like some kind of extreme threat of violence or risk to the person, the individual, or others, then they will route those to the team. There are other types of risk here that police would be sent to, but not every suicide intervention would need the police specifically to go. Like, as they said, CAHOOTS also helps out with suicide prevention, and they don't go along with the police every single time, which I think is great. Comprised of a medic and a crisis worker, and then they respond to calls and assist the situation and the individual if needed. But once again, even though they don't work with the police, as in they don't go around with police, they're in contact with police. There is a paramedic there, so they don't have to call a paramedic. There is a paramedic there, right? If something's going wrong. And you take 20% of 911 calls, yeah, and probably a little bit more than that. So to answer Destiny's question, which was specifically, what call would require a social worker and not a cop? To answer your question, at least in Eugene, Oregon, 20% of 911 calls, 20%. So, and I think that's sick. I think that's super cool. When you show up to the scene, are you carrying any type of paraphernalia like a cop would have? You got a uniform, handcuffs, a weapon? And they say no, they look casual, they're dressed casual, no weapons. The weapons they carry are your training. De-escalation. Cops never heard of this. I'm memeing. So here's one thing where they talked about if things escalate to something more than like CAHOOTS can handle. They asked, how often do things escalate? How often do you have to call the police? So last year they took 24,000 calls, and only 150 times did they need police backup. And once again, not all of that police backup is that the person's going like on a crazy shooting rampage or something. They explained it here. If we believe that someone is in danger, especially an immediate threat to others, for example, if someone was insisting in walking into traffic, I can't ethically just allow them to be hit by a car, but I also can't restrain them. And that's not my job. So that might be an instance when you call the police. So if someone's doing something like that, where they need to be like physically restrained, then CAHOOT doesn't do that. And that's when you call a cop if you need some sort of like to put hands on someone more than you do like what you would need. And this is really important to this person, Morgan, who's a part of this. I came into this work passionate about being a part of an alternative to police response because my father died during a police encounter. So it matters very much to me. It seems like these people care a lot about what they do. And I think we couldn't ask for anything more than that. This program sounds sick. Oh, 100% does. And you're thinking, yeah, it's like 1 out of 160 calls. They perfectly handle by themselves 99.4% of calls. 99.4%. All right. So once again, what type of calls would it be that these social workers would deal with and not police? Well, 20% of police calls, and they handle it by themselves 99% of the time. 99.4% actually. I'm gonna shoot myself. Stop. We're gonna call CAHOOTS on you, okay? You need some help. You need some help. And once again, yeah, there are other people there who may not want the responsibility or know what to do when calling someone, and you can call CAHOOTS and they can help your friend out. And it doesn't always have to be a cop, right? On another topic that Destiny brought up, when it comes to there may be like a dead body there, or if there's a dead body there, then obviously you like call the police. Like they can't like help someone if they're already fucking dead. I mean, you can give CPR to a dead body, I guess, if you like really want. I don't think it's gonna help much if they're already dead. That being said, if you need to get into a home, social workers can do that. So if it's an apartment complex, you can go ask to get the key, right? You're a part of this government program. Or like government program is not necessarily the police, but they know you're a part of the government. They're paid through the police's budget, even though they're not necessarily police, right? They can go ask for the key. Right? They say, hey, we're CAHOOTS, show the badge. We need the key to this apartment. We need to get in. And that's not something just these social workers would do. That's something police would do in general. Police, I don't think anybody wants police to come out on the scene and they try to open the door and it won't open. And the first thing that they do is like try and fucking shoot the lock off and like combat roll through the door or something, like kick the door down. Now you can do that. You can try and find an open window or even break a window before you even get to trying breaking a door down. And that stuff like social workers can do. CAHOOTS specifically doesn't have that jurisdiction to break in a window, I'm pretty sure, but they can do things like ask for keys. They can ask someone who called if it's a possibility for them to be able to open the door. Something that they shoot even if you do listen. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, isn't it? And he brought up how the cops are connected to the EMTs. Well, here you don't have to call an EMT. There's an EMT already there. Well, there's a paramedic already there. And if they need it, they can call for an EMT, right? They're connected to not only the police, they're connected to the EMTs. They can get someone there if they need it. And they'd be better prepared to take care of someone if they're in a mental health, if they're in like a physical health crisis, because they already have a paramedic there on the scene already. It sounds too good to be true. You're right. It is too good to be true. But I want to read this really quick first. Currently, there's a program to ensure paramedics are sent to certain 911 calls and they're better suited for the situation. In the vulnerable persons unit, pair a social worker with a police officer when responding to calls of mental health and addiction calls. Perrier says that the unit will expand to more services and be open 24/7. People can't control their crisis between 8 and 4 p.m., they said. Morgan worries that people only know to call the police during an emergency, and that's not always the right choice. Even cops don't always have to come, but the default is to call them. My bad. And I think that's where they get frustrated. Experts don't believe that cops should be sent to these situations 24/7. Let me, can I find this really quick? Reynolds worked for the Toronto Mobile Crisis Intervention Team alongside specially trained officers in Toronto for 18 months. She said there was ever any talk of a weapon or an unstable situation during a wellness check, police would quickly take over. This could be far more effective if we were in front and center doing the major assessment and having police's backup. In 20 years of emergency room experience as part of a psychiatric team, Reynolds says that she has regularly managed patients who have been described as psychotic. I've taken knives away from people in the emergency room. Sometimes I feel people in distress react to the police presence, which can make them more aggressive or afraid. And she talks about suicide by cop as well. Remember that. There are lots of people in like mental health crisis who just want to be killed by the police. And it seems like the police do a good job at it. So you call the police and then you like flip around a knife really quick and they just fucking get you. So that's another thing that you can cut down on, actually helping someone and not just shooting them like police tend to do sometimes. Patience, skill, and it takes healthcare experts, not police experts, to deal with these issues. So Twitter, Destiny is fucking salty that Vosh is right about something. I don't want to say that. You can think that if you want. I don't want to say that. I just think he's incorrect on this. If you want to take, if that's what you want to take this as, go ahead. All I'm saying is that I don't think he's correct on this issue. And it seems like all the information seems to be going against that point, that not only sending social workers and paramedics to these situations is good, sending them without police is even better. Now, you said you think that this is too good to be true. And I have to tell you, unfortunately, you're right. CAHOOTS-like collaboration with police divides social workers across the US. Here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing. Here's the big problem. Is because we don't want to fall into the trap of saying that social workers are near perfect or something. Like they're going to like fix all the problems. There needs to be a real fundamental change in the institution of policing and dealing with mental health crises. Not just do police's work, but not have a gun. And police and even social workers even have a speckled history when it comes to people with mental health issues and minorities. If you remember, they use social workers to take Native American kids away from their families and put them into like adoption clinics and try to like civilize and normalize them, right? They use social workers to do that. One person who studies who is in African American studies and also studies social workers said social workers contribute to the criminalization and mass incarceration of people of color. Linon, a Pennsylvania social worker and member of the Social Worker Service United, said she sees racism almost every day in social workers' evaluations of clients, saying that they're more likely to blame the people of color and advocate for their punishment. If you're a black boy in Philadelphia who's acting out, there's going to be a very different explanation why you're acting out compared to a white boy in a wealthy suburbs. Yeah, they could be homophobic, they could be transphobic. These people aren't perfect, okay? They still have a lot of problems with them. If we're trying to have social workers solve all these societal problems and be some kind of band-aid, then we also have to be doing the work within social work to get rid of the deep-seated, baked-in racism. Otherwise, social workers are just going to be police without guns. And that's a really important thing that we need to remember, okay? Social workers showing up to these issues is amazing. It's great. Way better than it is with police. Shootings go down, people's outcomes become way better, but without a fundamental change to the system of how we deal with this, it's going to be just cops without guns. And once again, they can just call the cops as well and give an explanation, a biased explanation, and they can put you in jail, put you in an asylum or something. That's something that they can do. And if you're working within the police so strongly, that's going to be something that's going to be a very big problem. And that needs to be fixed. You can't just say that all of this is going to be fine. It's not going to be fine. Now, once again, they do a lot of work and they fill in a lot of gaps that police completely miss and or they fill with lead. But it's important to remember they're not perfect. It is too good to be true. There are always problems with these systems, but we need to work to fix that. Racism is something that we can fix. It really is. And I think that is in a memento, por favor. It's almost it. It's really weird when I saw that some med students believe that black people have bigger resistance to pain. Yeah, I know, right? Shit's crazy, man. And they don't believe a lot of black women as well when they say that they have pain tolerance too. Yeah, I don't know why listen, we're just people. What the fuck are you talking about? We're just human beings, bro. Chill. All right, we're not like super people. The Center of Addiction, the CAM, called for a new direction in crisis care altogether. In a statement, the Mental Health Hospital and Research Center argued police should not be the first responders when people are in crisis in a community. At the end of the day, if you have a mental health problem, I think it would be ideal for a mental health worker to be involved in seeing you. In the same way that if you have a physical problem, you want someone that understands physical health who comes to your door and not a capo. And once again, another thing that you have to remember is that when you send a cop to everything, you think there's like a crime going on, right? It perpetuates the idea of like mental illness being connected to criminality and you being violent. So we want to cut down on that, and not having police show up to literally everything is another way that you can do that. There are so many cases where police make these situations worse, implicitly or explicitly, sometimes by their very existence in the situation at all can be a problem, not only for the person, but for the community at large. We need to make sure that we break through that. We need to make sure that we break through these institutions, the ones that hurt people, the prejudices that we have. And that's when Kahoot and other articles like this don't just become extensions of the police, but completely disconnected and move into a system that actually helps people holistically to improve communities at large. So I think that answers just about every question that I think Destiny had, or every argument that he had in the specific issue. I think this would be reasonably convincing. You guys can let me know. Tell me in the comment section. You can write it here if you're in chat right now, what you think. I think at the end of the day, experts, research, and how things have just come along shows that sending police into these situations, even with healthcare workers, is not the best thing to do. If there's a real situation where you actually need to restrain someone, put someone in like a cop car or something along those lines, obviously you can have police come in and do something along those lines. Or maybe even one day we don't have that taken care of by police specifically, and there could be another system that helps those people as well. But at the moment, that's what I think that's what I think 99% of what police should do in these mental health crises should be. 100% backup, last resort, only if needed, if this is something that the healthcare workers think that should be right. Not like what police thinks right, not what anybody else thinks is right. The people in the situation on the ground with that person one-on-one thinks that we need police there, or someone that can escalate that we can't. And that's what I think. All right, we good? I think we did it. But I want trigger happy police. So true, bestie. Modern hippie. Hey, who read that article? Center. Listen, it's Canadian. Okay, it's Canadian. You can bully them. It's in Canada.